We're going to save this client over $3 million in taxes, and today I'm going to show you exactly how step by step. Hey, my name is Zach Chiara. I'm a certified financial planner and the founder of Factor Financial. And today what I want to do is walk you through a case study that we recently had with some of our clients that recently came on board with us and show you step by step how we were able to save them over $3 million in taxes, as well as help them maximize their income and really just make their overall early retirement more successful as a whole. If you don't know who I am and you don't know who Factor is, we specialize in working with travel loving early retirees, helping them maximize their retirement income, reduce their taxes, and optimize their investments. So getting into the case study today, I have changed their names for their protection. So today they are Jerry and Judy Justice for the sake of this video. So just to give a little overview of what we're working with here, they have around $1.6 million in investments. And so the majority of that is going to be in their traditional 401ks from their working years. They are both 55. They came to me asking if, one, they're ready to retire early, asking if they can, and if so, what that would look like. And so we have the predominant amount here, around 1.1, 1.2 million of that going to be in their 401ks. Then they have a little bit over $400,000 in their brokerage, which is a combination of some additional after-tax savings as well as a small inheritance that they recently received. And so here they have their home valued at about $850,000 that they have paid off. All in all, really solid net worth, around $2.5 million. 55 years old. The other big benefit here is Jerry also gets a pension of about $75,000 per year when he retires. And so we factored that in as well. So that's their situation of coming in here. So a couple things when we first looked at it is the first thing we did, and first thing we did with all of our clients when we sit down with them, is we first determined, okay, changing absolutely nothing at all except a better approach, how much can we live off of, right? And that's where we first went in and we looked inside their dashboard. And so the way that they currently are is their 401ks, like probably many other people and maybe like you watching this, is you might be in a target date fund, right? So really, really common in 401ks these days, and they were in those as well. It's not inherently bad to be in a target date fund. They actually can be very good vehicles when you're first starting out. It's a really easy set it and forget it. It helps you stay broadly diversified, right? Changes over time. The problem oftentimes with the target date funds is as you get closer to whatever that target date is, right? That retirement date is what ends up happening is those funds can get way too conservative relatively to where you actually should be, especially as an early retiree. And so that was their problem as well, is they were actually sitting around 30% equity here when they first came to us, as we'll look at in a moment, which was just way, way too conservative and not optimizing anywhere near where they could be to actually not only invest smarter, but as in turn, be able to have a higher income as a result. Because that's really the goal here, right? We're not just trying to chase arbitrary numbers. We're trying to actually get real tangible benefits that can increase our odds of retirement success and satisfaction. And so moving here, that was the first piece that we noticed, and we're going to dive deep there momentarily. But the other piece that we noticed here was the way that they had come is they had heard a lot, and sure, very common saying is the 4% rule. It's, oh, I heard about the 4% rule. They had some concerns, and rightfully so. Hey, I know this was invented a long time ago. It was invented in the 90s. It was made for a 25-year, 30-year time horizon. We're 55. We're hoping we last longer than 25 years. Is this safe to do? Is it practical? If not, how do we do it, right? All really, really valid questions. And so that's the other thing that we addressed. And they were actually surprised to hear when I told them, well, actually, you can spend more than 4%, right? And the way we do that is just taking a smarter approach. And so a lot of traditional financial advice, and when you go to traditional advisors or you go to one of the free online calculators, right, is there's a combination of two things you hear really, really commonly. The 4% rule, which just assumes a static spending rate, and then this Monte Carlo analysis, right? And there's a couple problems, and it's not to say either of these are inherently awful. There's just oftentimes better ways to do this stuff. And so one of the problems with the 4% rule is, as I mentioned, it infers a static spending rate. So when you have a static spending rate, you're saying, hey, I'm going to spend 4% every single year. Well, yes, you're not accounting for certain things like sequences of returns risk. You're not accounting for the fact that you're probably going to spend more now and less later. And because you have that longer term time horizon, you are in fact exposing yourself to some risk of running out of money early, which is obviously not what we want. The other side of the coin, of the Monte Carlo analysis, is oftentimes this can lead us to spending way less than 4% and actually ending up in what I like to call the regret zone later in life. And that's where we chase this arbitrary high number, right? We're taught in schools, right? Hey, chase the higher probability, 99% probability. That's logical to do. And so I don't, get on anyone for actually doing that. But the problem is with Monte Carlo, you're accounting for every single scenario, right? And if you don't know what Monte Carlo is, all it is essentially you just run 1,000 different simulations over your life, playing with multiple different variables, and you're going to see over those 1,000 different simulations how many times are you successful and how many times are you unsuccessful. That is the determinant in terms of, okay, here's our probability of success. And that can be good to eliminate, right, or minimize a lot of risks. But oftentimes, when you chase this higher number, like we're taught to do just with everything else in life, is you end up accounting for a lot of things that are very much likely never to happen. Which, as a result, yes, you may avoid those things, but then later in life, you end up realizing, oh man, I spent so much less than I could have. There was all these things that I really wanted to do, that I dreamed about doing, that I just told myself wasn't in the budget, and actually it turns out it was in the budget. But now I'm in the situation where I'm too old, or I'm not healthy enough, or I can't enjoy it the same, and I have this regret, right? That's the regret zone. And when you use that Monte Carlo analysis, you oftentimes can end up in that state. And so a better approach is what's using called the guardrail approach. And so what this does is we define a very clear parameter around exactly how much you can spend, right? Call it your retirement paycheck, right? Every single month confidently without the fear of running out of money. And what we do is we put in very clear guardrails in place of when we need to make adjustments. So in Jerry and Judy's case, I told them, hey, well, congratulations. Yes, you can retire early, and you can safely take $10,900 every single month from your portfolio. And if your balance actually reaches 1.68 million, so only about $80,000 more, you actually get a pay raise of $500 a month. Congratulations. And if you're one of the unlucky ones and we experience 2008 tomorrow again, and you have that sequences of returns risk, and our balance drops to almost $500,000, about a little over 1.1 million here, then we have to take a pay cut to $10,300 a month. So we have to take a $600 pay cut. Then we went through this, asked them if they were okay with this, which they were, right? But this was a lot clear guideline. Great starting point. But this is where we decided to say, okay, well, in doing this amount of pulling this, we're saying we can safely take about $62,500 from our portfolio withdrawals to supplement our life, right? And that's all going to be from the brokerage, being we can't touch the 401ks right now without using the rule of 55, but we don't really want to do that. There's smarter ways, which we're going to get into here. And so that was a good starting place of what we looked at. But there was a couple big problems. And so the first big problem was we had this ton of money going back here to the balance sheet into their traditional 401ks, right? These are pre-tax or tax-deferred accounts. And so what was going to end up happening is they're going to end up in a situation where they're hit what we call the tax torpedo. And that means later in their life, as Social Security kicks in and RMDs kick in and their income brackets kick in and tax rates go up over time historically, right, is now all of a sudden they're having all this extra income. They're bumped up into these higher tax brackets, and they're getting hit with these huge tax bills that they didn't account for, and it just really eats away at them in the taxes. So what we want to do, and getting to the point of this video, right, is we wanted to say, well, how can we actually reduce your tax bills? And so this was the first thing we did, is we're doing a couple things, and that's inside of the brokerage account, we're going to be doing some strategic tax loss harvesting. If you don't know what that is, and you're interested in seeing a video that goes into more depth, just let me know in the comment section below. But for the sake of this one, we decided, hey, we're going to do some tax loss harvesting, and we're also going to look at Roth conversions. And so what we did is we said, all right, they're making about $250,000 a year. Let's go into the 24% bracket. Let's pay a little bit of tax now to save a lot of taxes later, so that way we don't have to end up leaving uncles in the tip. And so by doing this over a period of years, we were actually able to save them an average tax rate of 8%, almost 8%, 7.9, a little over 1.5 million in taxes, and increase the net legacy, which is going to go to their children and a little bit to their church, of almost $600,000 extra as well at the end of their life. This is all without changing income, without anything else. we're able to actually save them quite a bit of money. So a pretty good starting place there. The next thing we decided to do though is say, all right, we have a good starting place, but let's see if we can actually take a more intelligent approach. So before, as we mentioned, they were in target date funds and about 30% equity. And so one of the things that we did is we said, hey, what if we changed your allocation, as risky as it sounds, to about 80% equity, right? And I want to be very clear in this video. I don't have the time to kind of go into this. As like, this could be a whole video on its own. And again, if you're interested in seeing it, let me know. It's not your traditional 80-20. So don't think of it as, hey, I'm going to buy 80% of the S&P 500 and buy 20% of the Bloomberg Bond Index, right? That probably wouldn't work. There are strategic ways to go about doing this where you're actually able to increase your exposure to equity, which, historically obviously is going to increase your long-term return while still maintaining the same risk profile just by choosing a more intelligent strategy and approach of the actual investment vehicles under the hood. And so that's really what we did. And really it's about 80-20 here is what we're looking at. And by doing that, we were able to increase, if you remember before, it was $10,900 a month. So we were able to increase what they can safely take every single month for the rest of their lives by $500 a month. So just by making one simple little tweak, we were able to give them a $500 pay raise on day one. Additionally, same thing here in the parameters is if their balance increases a little bit over $100,000, they get a pay increase by $900 additional per month. And if their balance drops, again, almost $500,000 here, then they only have to take a decrease to $10,800. If you remember, their original retirement paycheck was $10,900. So now we're in a situation where, hey, even if we have a sequence of returns risk and we hit 2008 tomorrow, you only have to take a $100 pay cut from where you originally were when you first came to us. So that was the first step that we did that was able to provide a meaningful difference of being able to say, hey, just by choosing a more intelligent investment approach, we actually can do quite a bit of work. And then that moves into the case in point of this video, is also by investing more aggressively in a risk-adjusted way, is we were able to grow their wealth a lot more, which in turn increased their income, but it also provides far greater tax opportunities. And so overall, same thing, we're doing strategic Roth conversions over a period of years, which is over a period of around 3 to 4 years, is we're going to be doing this. And their average tax rate, they're going to save a little bit over 12%, over $3 million in taxes, 3.1 million, and their net legacy to their children and their church is going to go up by over $1 million just by doing these Roth conversions. That's what we looked at here. And you can see if we look at the purple bars, these purple bars, without going into much depth of this video, are the Roth conversions. So over a period of about 4 years, we are strategically doing. And now, Jerry and Judy asked me, well, what happens if we experience 2008 tomorrow? Not to say that's a good thing, but the bright side of that is, well, then all we do is we speed these up and we start converting these a lot faster, because what we get to do is really convert over at a discount, a huge discount, which is only going to make our return on investment, right, that much higher when the markets come back. And otherwise, we stay as planned. If the markets keep growing, we strategically do this over 4 years, and we are projected to save over $3 million in their lifetime. And you can see it keeps a nice smooth tax bracket here throughout their lives, as opposed to if you did a normal benefit of here is this would, if they just changed nothing, which originally is what they came here with, all these pink bars, these are your taxes. You can see here how later in life they start getting smacked with these really big tax bills year that just keep going up, because they get hit with that tax torpedo because we didn't plan ahead for it. So that was a really good piece where we say, hey, we just were able with some simple little tweaks to increase your paycheck, your retirement paycheck, by $500 a month. So you can confidently spend $11,400 every single month. We have clear guardrails in place, and we're going to save you a little bit over $3 million in taxes on the projections. Pretty cool stuff. But there was one other piece, and that is, because they are that travel loving type, because they're the early retirees, they had that conversation around the idea of living abroad for a couple of years. They had toyed between the idea of Madeira and Lisbon. They were kind of focused on Portugal because they heard a lot about the healthcare benefits for American expats in Portugal, which I find a lot of early retirees kind of sort of have that same scenario, that same storyline in their heads, which is a good one, right? Because they do have very good healthcare over there. So after we discussed that a little bit further and we looked and shopped some homes together of, hey, what would it actually look like? We were able to determine, well, we have, $850,000 home paid off. We're able to take the Section 121, so, as our primary residence, we can write off $500,000 of gain on that home, and then we can go and we can, downsize, right, and buy a cheaper home over in Portugal for now to live those lives. But the reality is the homes over there, you can get a lot more for a lot less right now. And so we were able to say, all right, well, we've already done a really, really good job, but let's take this up one more notch, is what would happen if we took the home and we looked over there and we said, okay, let's take a piece. So we shopped the homes and we found one that was about $350,000 that they liked, right? It was very close distance to the ocean. It was, beautiful inside, had all the pieces they did. And we said, okay, great. So we're going to do this and we're going to buy this home and then we're going to take the excess amount and we're going to put it back into the portfolio to further increase our income and get some tax benefits. And so once again, now, remember, we started at $10,900. We made some simple investment tweaks, and now we're adding in a little bit of the excess of our home sale into this portfolio. We're able to increase their retirement paycheck to $13,000. So they are now effectively getting $2,100 more per month for the rest of their life by making a couple of these simple tweaks. They have some clear guidelines, same as before, around when they can expect to adjust. When we come here to their taxes, they're still going to save about $3 million in taxes on our projections. Their net legacy, right, the inheritance that they're leaving behind to their children and a little bit to their church, it has increased by 1.8 million, and they're still going to save around 12% in their average taxes. Pretty powerful stuff here, considering we started with the 1.6 million in their investments, and this is what it looks like in terms of the value of what they can expect, right? And same here, they have their life on one page, and now all of a sudden, they can take $87,100 per year in their first year of retirement from their portfolio, in addition to Jerry's pension, which mentioned before about the $75,000. Pretty powerful stuff, and we have that labeled out every single year of how that changes in their scenario. But like most clients, they had a couple reservations at the very end, and that's the last thing I want to address in this video, is they were worried, okay, Zach, I understand everything you're saying. I understand how we can optimize our investments and we can increase our income, still maintain the same risk profile. I'm just really, really nervous is, I experienced 2008, I experienced the dot-com bubble, like what happens if my portfolio, does that? What happens if I'm one of the unlucky ones? And I was like, well, fantastic. Let's actually run through a stress test of doing that. So let's look at, hey, if 2008 did in fact happen, the year, that you retired, is what would happen to your balance. And so we looked at that and we said, all right, it's, we retire today and we retire and then tomorrow is November of 2007, right? So we get about as unlucky as you can possibly get. Is let's look at our balance of when we would have to adjust. And quickly they realized, oh, actually, we never had to take a pay cut. Is we actually, in May of 2011, got to take a pay increase of about $1,200, right? So we got that pay increase stress testiness. Same thing, we looked at the dot-com bubble, as you can see right away, 99, March 99, here in April of 2000, we can see that they got a pay increase, again, about $1,200. They never had to take a pay cut in this stress test, right? And obviously, as we explained to them, there's no magic here, right? Just because you can stress test this in the past doesn't mean it's not for sure going to happen in the in the future. But it gives us a pretty good idea, about the best idea that we can get, unless we're just making stuff up, right? Which we're not in the business of here. And the other side of it is you can stress test this and you can say, hey, it looks really, really good on paper. We can simulate it, and that's great. But the other thing is, we know, again, without going too deep, in this video on the underlying investments, that the way that we're invested is we are also poised to be successful no matter the market environment. And so what that does, right, is just like if you're in engineering or you're in tech or you're in aerospace, right? This idea of the Six Sigma of, hey, we have multiple chain links, right? Because if one system fails, we have another system, another system, another system. It's the same idea where we have a lot of competing evidence that stacks on top of each other, which makes a really, really strong argument for why this is okay, right? And the most important piece, which is how we make sure it stays okay, right, with our and be positive on that, is why we have these guardrails in place, is we have very clear parameters of when we need to take pay cuts and when we actually get to do pay raises. That provided them the confidence and the reassurance that they needed to say, okay, I understand this so much better now. And so at the end of the day, they were able to walk out, and this, by the way, is the plan that we ended up implementing and that we're going forward with, is they walked out being able to spend $13,000 a month, $2,100 more than when they originally came in just with their situation, far more than they even anticipated looking at the 4% rule. And they were able to actually end up reducing their taxes of what we project to be around $3 million over their lifetime tax bill that they save, and invest a little bit smarter, which is going to give them more money for them now in their retirement and also for their heirs when they pass away. Overall, really, really powerful planning in this piece. And what I just wanted to do was walk through this case study. Hopefully you found some value from it, just to show you how some small, simple tweaks can provide some really impactful differences. If you're interested on more information like this, click the link below and subscribe to our newsletter, where we reach out and we give additional information every single week on topics around maximizing your retirement income, reducing your taxes, and optimizing your investments. And then finally speaking, if you like this video, please like and subscribe and leave a comment with anything that you would like to see in future videos, and I would be happy to make one addressing it. Without further ado, I'll see you in the next one.